Hello everyone, and welcome to this special season wrap-up of In Perspective. In almost 3 years, I've had the opportunity to speak with nearly a dozen guests across from many walks of life. They were authors, visionaries, entrepreneurs, sports figures, thought leaders, all experts in their field. And boy, was I impressed with the people who ended up accompanying me throughout this journey. Let's begin with Ashish Advani. We spoke about education and entrepreneurship, the main focus areas of junior achievement which he leads. I asked him about the role of technology in the future of education. Little did we know in 2018 what was ahead of us in this very unusual 2020.
And we're living through transformation in education now, where through innovations, young people in Africa or India have access to the same test prep that the richest people in Europe and North America have. We're creating democratized access to the world's most important knowledge. I think we feel today that the human interaction between a mentor and a student, a teacher and a student, can never be replicated by technology. But I think we're finding slowly in different parts of the world, for different types of education, for different skills, people actually want and they prefer to get certain types of content through technology.
Ashish's thoughts and reflections are now more relevant than ever, as educational institutions around the world had no choice but to adapt to online learning methodologies. We got a grasp of the balanced approach to human interaction and online learning as probably the very feasible way of doing education in the new normal. This definitely reminds me of the conversation I had with Juan Jose Campanella last year, obviously the Academy Award winner and the talented filmmaker who shared his experiences in a very different way, in this case talking about films.
The most important aspect of how to get an audience to see it. How to make an impact with the film, because it can, all that effort that I described before can die in the first weekend if it's not properly handled and creatively handled.
Right.
Many filmmakers think that marketing is not an art, and I really think that it is. Audiences through the streaming services have opened themselves to see stuff from all over the world. Just turn it on and you see 1,000 little stamps, and how to make your little stamp be the one that stands out and people watches and recommends.
It is as important having a great product as the experience you create for your customers, because customers have many options now, and technology is definitely the great enabler behind many of these experiences. And one of my guests, Emiliano Callerman, the founder of Satellogic, was inspired to build low-cost satellites to help meet the basic needs of a growing world population through the use of geospatial analytics.
We call it imaging, but we're really sensing very, very precisely what happens in every square meter of the planet.
When you created your business, there was a purpose that you were trying to pursue. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I started thinking a lot about food security and energy generation and natural resources. Particularly, if we're going to be 9 billion people in a few decades, how do we feed 9 billion people? How do we give them energy so that they have a good standard of living? And how we do these two things in a way that's sustainable. So I started to realize that making decisions about how we use resources, they're just not the best decisions in terms of the world at large. For me, the way to fix this was to build a system that will allow us to make better and more informed decisions every day.
Entrepreneurs like Emiliano, or another one of my guests, the world-renowned winemaker Susana Balbo, know the value of an innovative idea, to not give up and keep trying until they succeed.
Para ser emprendedor y ser verdaderamente un emprendedor, tiene que tener la pasión por lo que hace o pasión por hacer. No abandonar los sueños. Cuando uno le va mal, no significa un fracaso, sino que es una curva de aprendizaje, encontrar nuevos caminos para llegar a ese mismo objetivo y no abandonar jamás.
Primero ser emprendedor y después desarrollar su liderazgo. ¿Cómo es el liderazgo de Susana Balbo?
Yo defino mi liderazgo como un liderazgo de empatía. Rápidamente ponerte en el lugar de la otra persona hace que el diálogo se facilite mucho, y esto es para todo, para dirigir gente como para hacer negocios.
Susana spoke about leadership of empathy. Let's hear Ismael Cala, an author, a journalist, a producer, and an inspirational leader, explain his perspective on leadership.
You know, I've been studying these two areas, exponentiality, the rapid change of technology and how that impacts our lives. But I've been, since I was 15 years old, studying about mindfulness because I'm coming from a family from brain disorders, and I had to make sense how I could change the, let's say, inherited programming of my brain not to end up with the same destiny as my father. How to be mindful and at the same time to have an exponential mindset for the future.
I was just thinking how we would connect the concept of mindful exponential leadership to leadership styles in Latin America, what you have seen traveling around the region.
We are very resilient by nature. A mal tiempo, buena cara, no?
Yeah.
Even if we are in the middle of a storm.
Wow, talk about relevant. Al mal tiempo, buena cara. Inspiring ideas, inspiring thoughts, but in the end, it's all about the people. It's about creating a world where the people can thrive at their jobs, at their careers, more purposeful lives. I spoke about this with the renowned Harvard professor Francis Fry, an expert in the role of diversity and leadership in organizations.
Many of us feel like when we get diversity, we want to celebrate. Like, so if it's all men and we bring in a woman, yay! And diversity without inclusion, without just having diverse people around the table, without creating the conditions for diverse perspectives to be brought up. And so we have to set the conditions for diverse people to thrive. I think inclusion is the way to do it. Organizations that can do that the best, they're the ones that are going to win.
You mentioned being authentic. Authenticity is probably the most complex thing to, to achieve and to be able to show to people. Any thoughts on that?
For me to be authentic around people that are like me, it's actually not that hard. Where authenticity becomes difficult is when I'm around people that are dissimilar from me, and then I still want to show my difference. Because it's much easier to conform, to find common ground. When we're in a sea of difference, it's hard to be authentic. So I think authenticity is vital, particularly when you're in the minority.
As a Hispanic working in the United States, and then for many years in Latin America, and now in a completely new region, I've experienced firsthand being a minority and what it takes to really be authentic. I had the opportunity to speak with a very strong advocate for minorities and particularly for Hispanics. I'm talking about Claudia Romo Edelman, who's doing her part through the We Are All Human Foundation, a foundation she started a couple of years ago to support equality for Hispanics in the US and around the world.
Hispanics have not recognized their own contributions to the country. We're powerful, but we think weak. We're big, but we think small, and that is because we're fragmented. We don't necessarily think as a community. We think Cubans don't talk to the Colombians, don't talk to the Venezuelans, and that has to stop. We have to come from 26 to 1. Because that unification, having a shared dream, having something that we fight for is going to actually let us exercise the power that we potentially have today.
Another great conversation was the one I shared with the pro golf player and philanthropist, Ernie Els. We spoke about golf, we spoke about business, how the two compare, but also we talked about the great work that he's doing for people on the autism spectrum.
Well, we really help our kids from the ages of 3, and we have the facility till they're 21 years old. We're finding out how talented these people are in certain sectors. Our job is to educate and try and get the kids to a certain level where they can get into a mainstream society and honing their skills accordingly. And then it's up to the big companies, business world, to see where they can fit into their business model. SAP, for instance, has opened up themselves to finding talent and seeing what they can do with the autistic talent into their workforce. This is just the beginning of something really big that can happen around the world.
The accomplishments of the Ernie Els Center of Excellence are truly inspiring, as it was the conversation I had with Jason Silva, a futurist, a philosopher, a public speaker, and a television personality. The conversation was about the potential of augmented human capabilities with the help of technology, what he calls transhumanism.
You know, most people are averse to the term because they think of the Terminator scenario. You know, transhumanists, like somehow we're losing our humanity and becoming more technological. But my view is different. My view echoes those of Ray Kurzweil and people like Kevin Kelly from Wired magazine, that technology extends our humanness because it extends our capacities, and it's pretty much an embodiment of our creative capacities in the world. And so I believe to be human is to be transhuman. We are a tool-making animal, and we've overcome our limitations by creating tools and basically extending and augmenting our capacities.
What's most interesting is that these technologies Jason is talking about are not technologies of the future. They're really technologies that are here with us now, that are part of our daily life. Just think about this. Artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning. Consider what you have in your smartphones, in your connected home devices, and even in your cars. You don't have to go far to find these technologies embedded in your everyday life. I am so eager to see what these and other technologies can help us achieve for the years to come. Now in my new role as president of SAP for South Europe, Middle East and Africa, my new guests from around the world with their compelling ideas and perspectives, I'm sure will inspire us to think about the future and what each of us can do to create a lasting impact in the world for future generations. I invite you to stay tuned for the next season of In Perspective. And if you want to watch any of the past interviews, check out the link in the video's description. See you soon!